Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're going to do a walking, talking mock for Lord of the Flies, and we're going to be looking at the theme of power. All you need is a piece of paper and a pen. Okay, here's the question that we're going to be attempting today. And in the time that we've got together, in 45 minutes, we're going to plan and we're going to write a really high-level, top-level 6 response for William Golding's Lord of the Flies. Here's the question. Golding's novel is not just about children and their survival, it's about power. How does Golding explore the theme of power in the novel? Explore how power is a key theme in the novel and how Golding uses the theme of power to communicate ideas about society. 30 marks. So they've made it look a bit accessible and engaging, but ultimately it's an essay about power that we need to do. How's a novel about power? First 5 minutes, we're going to think about planning. So I'm going to take you through what I would be thinking about if I was in the exam. Now, here's my plan. In the first 5 minutes of the examination, I'm going to think about my ideas and the direction that my essay is going to take. So I'm going to start with an introduction, and in that, I'm going to probably mention a little bit of context, and then I'm going to explore Ralph as a leader. He's in power at the beginning of the novel. Jack eventually takes power from Ralph, but we get lots of clues that that's going to happen, so I'm going to explore that. I might go back to Ralph and talk a little bit about why he fails as a leader, the idea of him giving the boys false hope. I'm going to explore what happens when Jack takes power, and then I'm going to wrap it up and conclude. So I've got my introduction and conclusion, and I'm sort of looking at four ideas or 5 moments or from the actual text. So that's my plan, and let me take you through it now in a little bit more detail. Okay, so my introduction is also going to introduce a bit of context. I might mention a little bit about William Golding and what influenced him as a writer, but I'm going to definitely mention power. I'm going to try and get that into every single paragraph. Then I'm going to talk about Ralph. He becomes a leader, and the first impressions that we've got of him, some of my opinions about Ralph and some of the ideas that lead me to think that he's going to fail. Then I'm going to talk about the clues that Jack's going to take power and what that might mean for the island. Then I'm going to talk about Ralph giving the boys false hope as a leader, and when that happens and what that makes the reader think and feel. I'm going to explore the bit that that when Jack takes power, I'm going to explore what happens to the boys on the island thereafter, and then I'm going to conclude with some ideas about society. So I'm going to wrap it up in that little last paragraph. I'm going to just talk about maybe what it was that William Golding really wanted, in my opinion, for William Golding wanted us to be coming away from reading his novel thinking about. So that's my plan. I wouldn't necessarily write in that much detail. I'm just going to be writing some bullet points down. And on your paper, that's okay, because you're showing that you're thinking critically about how you're going to respond to the question. If you're in your writing assessment for English language and you're drawing mnemonics and a forest and all that sort of stuff down, that isn't really necessary. Top level students do plan their responses in this way first before they begin, so this is credible. Okay, let's begin. We're going to try and get this response written together, and the time is ticking away. We've planned now, and now you're going to write with me. Okay, so we're going to start with that introduction, and in that we're going to certainly tick off that AO3 sort of context objective. So we're going to start by explaining a couple of sentences. William Golding was a naval officer in World War II, and you can talk about the fact that he saw the best and worst of humanity, and that influenced his writing. Then you can talk about the novel being about good versus evil, and it's a fight for power between Jack and Ralph, and you can talk about who symbolises what if you've got the time to. And we might then be able to talk about why he might have wanted to write a novel about power at the time of writing. He was writing, in the years after World War II and after the Holocaust. Why might he wanted to be sharing his ideas about society with his readers? You've got 5 minutes to write that introductory paragraph, or paragraph or two, whatever it ends up being. You've got 5 minutes, and then we're going to move on to start exploring the text. So 5 minutes to write your introduction. Okay, part 2. So we got 5 minutes now. We're going to write a paragraph exploring our first impressions of Ralph. And in that opening to the novel, we come to realise that he's going to struggle to keep power. So we've got 2 references here. If you're aiming for that 4, 5, 6 outcome, you've got the reference on the left. And if you're aiming for 7, 8, 9, the top level, top band, we're probably going to try in this 5 minutes, see if we can analyse both quotes to make our point. So we've got, his name's not Fatty, it's Piggy, and you can talk a little bit about the social hierarchy in chapter 1. Ralph becomes leader, but he gives Jack some authority at the beginning, and you can talk about, you know, what that informs us of. And then if you get that done, you might have time to analyse the quote like a wolf. Jack feeds everybody his first kill, and Ralph eats his like a wolf. A great simile for you to analyse. If you get there, you've got 5 minutes, and then you'll hear from me to move you on. Okay, part 3. Jack is somebody that's driven by power, and we can see that Ralph is going to struggle to keep his authority on the island and his influence very early on. So we've got this easy point to make. We know that Jack will take power from Ralph. So that's the point that we're going to make at the opening of our paragraph. And we're getting that word power in. We need to get that into every paragraph that we write to be answering the question. And then we've got some quotes to analyse. We've got, next time there would be no mercy. That's at the end of chapter 1 when Jack can't kill the pig. You can talk a little bit about why Golding might have chosen to end his opening chapter in that way, with that sort of quite worrying, foreboding sort of revelation about Jack. And then if you get that far, we've got analyse the quote, awesome stranger. Is what Jack sees when he sees his face paint for the first time. So you can explore those 2 references. You've got 5 minutes. You'll hear from me when the time is up, and I'll move you on. Okay, part 4. Ralph is an idealist. He thinks everything's going to be okay, and he gives the boys false hope. He thinks that everything will be plain sailing, and it certainly isn't on the island. And because he gives people false hope, it allows Jack to gain influence and to take over. So we've got 2 references here for you to explore. Ralph tells the islanders this is a good island. The readers already know it's not. At that point, Golding's mentioned skull-like coconuts and a bird giving a witch-like cry. There's lots of description that tells us of the contrary, but Ralph overlooks all that and just says this is a good island. We know straight away that he's giving the boys false hope, and Golding's probably telling us, to be mindful of that. And then we've got Daddy's ship. That's what he thinks will rescue them. And later on, there's a change in Ralph that you might have the time to explore when he starts talking about his father instead of Daddy. So you've got 5 minutes to explore this. Make the simple quote, and there are the references you can use, and I will move you on when that time is up. Okay, well done, everybody. You are heading towards a full response. We've got a 5th section to our essay now to write. And there's a really great point, quite a sort of conceptualised sort of point to make here. Ralph's idealism fails, and then evil succeeds, and Jack takes power, which is something that Golding might be wanting to explore in order to make a comment about wider society. So we've got his idealism failing. You can also talk about the motif of falling that sort of foreshadows his failure. Everything falls in the novel. The boys fall, the conch falls, the glasses falls, and that falling is hinting at this outcome. But that's the point we're going to make. And then here are some evidence. Here is some evidence that we can use to back that up. So we've got Simon's death. There were no words and no movements, but the tearing of teeth and claws, which is what you can analyse. That's a great moment. It's where Simon dies, and it's got lots of layers of meaning there that you can analyse in the 5 minutes you're about to be given. And if you get the chance to, you can explore the idea that power corrupts. And that's some, the power and responsibility that Jack has, corrupts him. And you can explore that being because of the darkness of man's heart, which is really what the novel is about. You've got 5 minutes to see how far you can go, and then I will let you know when it's time to move on. time to conclude. And this is now our conclusion that we're going to write. So if you're aiming for that 4, 5, 6, here's a key question for you. What warning does the novel give us about power? Ralph's failure rather, and what the island becomes when Jack gains influence. What do you think Golding might be telling us about power, society, democracy? Make some sort of comment about what ideas about humanity you think are being communicated. That's ticking that AO3 box, but it's also answering the question, because that's one of the bullet points that have been given to us. So we'll conclude with that. And if you are 7, 8, 9, you can do the first, if that's what you're aiming for and you've got the time to, let's explore that first question. And then you can explore the idea of Golding wanting us to be as humanity to be less naive in a post-Holocaust world. You can explore the idea of like the time of writing and why this novel was in keeping with so much literature at the time in regards to having a really stark message about humanity and about the way that we act and treat each other. You have 5 minutes. I will let you know when that time is up. Okay, in the last 5 minutes, if we have the time to, we need to check and complete. So we've got the time now just to have a little bit of a look over. If there's anything else we want to add, this is the time to do that. But it's just an opportunity to read back your work, and I'll let you know when it's time to move on. Okay, well done. You've hopefully been able to write a really high level 6 exploratory and well structured response. You've got the mark scheme there to have a look at. Certainly you should have been able to evidence a lot of those skills across the assessment objectives, and you should have done really well today. Do have a look at the other walking talking mocks that are a part of the channel. They should help prepare you for your exams across the text that you've studied. Okay, check out my other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep revising.